I have the great honor, so we have been talking about AI in action. I don't like to separate AI and data, but okay, this time I have a great honor to have with me a group of people I have had the honor to work with for 2 years. And this is the Data Spaces Business Alliance, and in particular the CEOs of the Data Spaces Business Alliance. And we wanted to bring to you here today in the panel, well, our vision and to show our collaboration. We are talking about sustainable impact in this event. Sustainable impact we can only achieve with really very strong collaborations in Europe. And you will see now an example of one of the strongest, in my opinion, that I have experienced in the last few years. So I would like to welcome on stage Roland Fadrany, Chief Operation Officer of Gaia-X. Of course, Thomas Hahn, our President, and also his Vice President of Gaia-X. I would like to call also Ulrich Ahle, CEO of the FIWARE Foundation. And we have from Germany, Lars Nagel, who really wanted, CEO of IDSA, he wanted to be with us today, but unfortunately, because of personal reasons, he couldn't, but he made the effort to be with us online. So thank you, Lars, as well. And I will join the panel this time, and will be Thomas who moderates the panel. Big applause, please.
Okay, also a warm welcome from my side. And Anna, normally I will not correct you, but this time I will correct you. I will not moderate the panel. Maybe orchestrating a little the panels because we are cooperating. And this is, let's say, also the attitude or the flavor, how we are working together. Only, sorry, normally I never do this, but I have to correct this. So we're sitting together, and Lars, perfect that you are connected online. And we're sitting together here, and you have seen this is regarding the Data Space Business Alliance. And maybe I'm starting with 2-3 sentences, or 5 or 6, let's see how many I need, about a Database Business Alliance. What was the motivation behind this? How we are doing this, what is our attitude in working together, and so on. And my first comment about attitude was exactly my comment about moderation or moderation of the panel. But maybe I start what was driving us. It was somehow in September 2021, August, September, and then we are putting our heads together and said, we are looking at a comparable topic around data, data spaces, value of data, whoever you name this, applications, from different perspectives. Maybe we have a similar perspective, maybe a different one, but it's not an issue. We're looking from different views on the same topic. And that's why we said it here, and Anna, you said it also in the beginning, let's just work together. Also we have not done a big thing, a big 251 pages contract. No, we have, I think, 1 or 2 pages where we roughly, and to be honest, I don't remember what is written in the pages, on these 2 pages, but only in very short, over 2.5 or 1.5, thanks Lars, overview. What we are doing and what we want to do and why we want to do this. Maybe also I'm allowed coming from industry to highlight a little bit also, and I have done this also in the opening of this fantastic conference. What is driving us? You know, I said it before, data spaces are popping up. I think I used them with mushrooms. You know, we have in tourism dates here in Spain, for example. We have for energy, we have for manufacturing, health. Don't ask me how many data spaces are in the last 2, 3, 4 years are coming up. So we have the obligation to support this and to create together impact. And why? And now I'm allowed maybe to have one example. I used this also on Wednesday at the beginning of the conference, only to show a little bit why this is needed. And my apologies against the example from manufacturing where I'm coming from. When you're looking at manufacturing, when you're looking only on a product carbon footprint, when you look at the shop floor where you see only the scope 1 and 2, maybe 10, 20% of the CO2 emission, The other part is in the upstream or downstream, meaning you can imagine how many you not see when you're only looking at the shop floor. And you can imagine that, when you have some kind of data economy, data spaces in the background where you include the upstream part and the downstream part, when you have also the connectivity to them, not only for reporting, but also to look at it, how you can influences in a positive sense, meaning in this case reduction of CO2 emission. You can imagine why the data spaces, data is becoming so relevant. This was somehow my statement, and we can extend this to a supply chain, resilience of supply chain. You can speak about battery passport and, but nevertheless, in a nutshell, is around data economy and what we can do. And therefore, we had, let's say, the obligation in supporting this and to creating impact. So that's on the one side. What is the need behind this? And for sure, as industries, there's one topic, or in business is one topic that you are doing this to improve something. I've done the example regarding reduction of CO2, to improve processes, to get more efficient. On the other side, also to facilitate or to trigger new business opportunities. And this, let's say, is a little bit with some examples why we are heading this, why we are targeting this, and to be honest, let's say also need from the industry perspective why we are doing this. So and when you're now looking at the European landscape and where we are somehow together connected with the industry, with the research institute, with the governments, with associations, who can count, you can summarize this. But when you're now looking at this, what is the European landscape? And I think André mentioned before the HPC, when I remember correctly. We have the stack, with the HPC, compute and storage, with the quantum initiative. We have the data infrastructure with the communication. We have the data spaces. We have the data value with the AI. And, I just mentioned some of the projects, applications like dates or like manufacturing domain in the energy domain. So, and this is why we can handle this somehow together. And this is also our intention, and as I said before, also obligation. And I think we have achieved something. We have achieved several things. We can achieve more. Yes, that's always the case. But I give you only 2-3 highlights, and then Anna, Ulrich, Roland, and Lars stepping into. Simple example. We applied together for the Data Space Support Center and coordination support activity, cross industry, supporting the building up of data spaces. That we have done. We have then targeted different verticals. We are in the skills data space, in the manufacturing, don't ask me else, I think in smart cities and so on, but it doesn't count. You see only how we are building up the network to create impact. And this is, we also looked what is our, yesterday was the iSpace ceremony, how we can also link the different hubs together to create impact, to have close to our customers support. This is driving us. This is, let's say, where we are. And as said before, attitude, we are just working and avoiding, let's say, unnecessary topics and just focus on the things. But maybe Ulrich, jumping a little bit, elaborated from your perspective what we have achieved up to now in the area of technologies. What are your thoughts? And please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you are completely right. And with the perspective of technology, and this was one of the 4 targets when we created the Data Spaces Business Alliance, to create one common architecture. The other 3 were to speak with one voice to the market, to combine the more than 100 hubs we do have, or iSpaces in the case of BDVA. And finally, we are combining more than 1,000 members, so a very strong voice here in Europe. Coming to the technology we created, and we, in this case, mainly means the teams around our chief technology officers. a common architecture, and we call this technology convergence. The first version was published already a year ago. The actual version is 3-4 months old. And although this hasn't been falling from the sky, and this is a main intention from the technology point of view of the Data Spaces Business Alliance, not to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, we are defining a common architecture for the creation of interoperable data spaces being operated on federated cloud infrastructure, and to select available technology wherever possible. So not to reinvent the wheel, but to combine them. And only there where there are white spots, and maybe we will come to a large European project later called Simple that fits very well into this story. Only there new technologies should be invented. And this also means we have not started from scratch. I see some faces here who have been working in a European-funded project called OpenDI, and there was the first idea to create some so-called building blocks for the creation of interoperable data spaces. Building blocks organized in 4 groups. The first one is on data exchange, so common interfaces, common data models. The second one is on trust, a prerequisite for the creation of data spaces. The third one is on data monetization, very important for the sustainability of data spaces. And the fourth one is on the business models, on the whole governance structure, so how to set up, how to operate such a data space from the business perspective. And this technology convergence was created by the Data Spaces Business Alliance, was provided as an input also to the project, Thomas, you mentioned, to the Data Spaces Support Center. So this is a project started nearly 1 year ago, or exactly 1 year ago. On October 1st of last year, we had, and then in October, we had the big kickoff in Brussels with a large consortium working on the creation of the technical guidelines for the creation of interoperable data spaces in Europe. And our big aim is to come up with a set of building blocks which are to be used or can be used when creating domain-specific data spaces, with the aim to have, let's say, 80% of the building blocks really being domain agnostic. So building blocks which can be used in industry, in manufacturing industry, in mobility, in energy, in agriculture, and so on. And to have only the remaining 20% really domain-specific. But this base of 80% shall be an enabler to create also the interoperability between these data spaces. And this is very, very important. And yeah, this is a bit of view on the technology development, which we started in the Data Spaces Business Alliance, working very close together with the Data Spaces Support Center. And we are working very close together with these 4 organizations. And looking at presentations today, I think we still have to improve to give a clearer picture to all of you who are asking, what shall I do when I want to build a data space? What to use? And but I think we made some very good first steps. Still a way to go, but we are on a good way.
Many thanks, Ulrich. 100% agreed. Also, the topic regarding data monetization and business model is really, and I mentioned before, to get not only to improve, but also to look to new business opportunities. That's what is touching us or is necessary for us. And when you are asking me as an industry where we're still scratching our head how we can do this, the help is needed. And you are absolutely right with the services you mentioned, what is a common basis and so on. As in manufacturing, we have some kind of a shared service layer, exactly versus common services, like you mentioned before, or common parts components are inside. But maybe, you know, when you are speaking about the internationals, and you're speaking about sometimes about standardization, and maybe Lars, you can step in a little bit. You're smiling, that's good. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I would love to do that. I would even have loved this more with you in person, on site. So for health-related reasons, I cannot be with you. I enjoy our community so much and also our collaboration. So this is a pity. Anyway, well, I just can complement what you have said before. Why have we grouped together as DSBA? It is, and perfectly fine, like Ulrich said, we are stronger together than all of us alone. And we have to bring light into the jungle of data spaces, because data spaces are a holistic endeavor. So this is a true, well, game changer for making data economy and also AI happen. So therefore, we are well, seeing this issue of, or this species of data space from different perspectives. And key at the end is interoperability. We know that we have different, well, levels of interoperability, and that is what you have to consider when you build a data space, referring to Ulrich again. So it is not like, okay, you can download a data space and push a button and then there it is. Well, no, you have to cover and follow a lot of challenges. So legal interoperability, organizational interoperability, semantic interoperability, technical interoperability. You have to respect all of this. You have to find solutions for all of this, and then you can build a data space. And also a lot of different players are needed to really conduct this challenge. And therefore, well, you need to find a common sense. And that is what we are doing in DSBA. We start with the smallest common denominator so that you can really build a data space. Because if you have a look at these 4 layers of interoperability, it's all about consensus, about harmonizing, about finding the smallest common denominator. And, well, on one hand side, it's like very hands-on. At the end, you can call it a standard, a de facto standard, and also formal standard. I will share that with you a little bit later. And that is exactly what we are doing. We are working on all of these levels, and at the center of this is interoperability and trust. The good thing about data spaces is, like with the mobile communication networks, it makes all data endpoints interoperable because you can trust that everything is working fine. You can take your phone and call someone in Spain, not knowing if he or she is in Spain, and it's just working. You rely on the infrastructure. And that is what we bring in with the 4 organizations, interoperability and trust. We have done that on a conceptual level, so we have like conceptually made interoperability and trust available. Now we can show how you design a data space with an architecture paper that Ulrich referred to. And now we are in this twilight zone to build data spaces. So you can build a data space. It's not all fine. It's not all there. It's not all in commercial software, but you can build it. And there will be much more. And therefore, what we are doing in DSBA in the next step is to work more on the standardization, so that we not only standardize like technology and concepts, but also something that you can use. And well, this is called software and services, so that it will be shipped from companies, from service providers, that you can download it, that you can use it. And therefore, we need to focus in the next phase on open source software developments. We need to focus on productization of data spaces. So you need to have it built in product portfolios of companies and service providers. And we also need to see like, how can we find like standards for operation of data spaces? So what can we learn from big data spaces like Smart Connected Supplier Network, Iona-X, Catena-X? How do they run their data space? This can be inspiration then for the media data space, which has been kicked off like 2 days ago, and all the others to come. So our role is to drive that standardization. And well, my next statement would also be like, we should focus on formal standardization, but let's have that later, and I give back to Thomas.
Okay, Lars, many thanks. And you know, standardization is key international. And a pity that you were not here on Wednesday, but we launched on Wednesday. I think Roland was here, but Ulrich, you are also coming a little bit later. We launched together regarding standardization some kind of worldwide agreement. Also agreement is maybe a strong word, worldwide cooperation, because exactly to drive this together, because you know we all on the one side depending, but also selling our products and solution to the US, Japan, Korea, you name it, in Europe and so on. And it was also, it's 100% agreeing on this, and maybe also to add, because I had the chance to speak with Tanja Suarez, maybe she's somewhere here in the room. There's also some kind of a project ongoing in the European Commission to look in the same countries how we can agree on standardization. And it was really a pleasure for me here out of Spain to have this, in this case with US, this cooperation or this announced with members of the Department of Energy on the one side, and here also from representatives from Commission and from governments. I think this was a good thing, and the most important thing, sorry for this, they used the same slide and the same wording. And this was also that they're accepting what we are doing. But all is fine. Ulrich, you have spoken about technology. I have spoken a little bit about use cases, why data spaces or data economy is becoming for improvement of a new business model so important for us, for industry, and for us as a society in total. But now we have to bring it somehow to the market. And I look to my left side, to Roland. Can you speak about how we can bring it to the market?
Yeah, for sure. So we had, as Gaia, our Market-X event in Vienna in March. And at that time, we already identified about 120 projects that are using technologies any of our organization is actually providing. And we have a couple of lighthouse projects. And the real thing to get it done is, and Lars, you mentioned it, we need to write code and we need to make it real. And the point is we have introduced last year the concept of a digital clearinghouse, which is nothing more, nothing less than a specific set of functions. And it's namely a registration service, a compliance service, and a notary service that allows on neutral spots to obtain compliance on a per service level. And who runs those? It is not the Gaia-X ISBL, because we should not run it. It's a totally federated system, and that's why we say it's a democratization of trust. So you have those nodes. We have at the moment 3 nodes and 1 test bed out there. So one is Aruba, one is T-System, and the last one that is going up and running right now is Orange. We have 20 more in the pipeline, also Spanish ones. Because that is a place where you can go to obtain compliance and then participate in the ecosystem. And the market adoption is really important here, because when you look at it, the current large projects have built everything from scratch. So have built the concepts, then they've built the infrastructure, then they tried to have some rules there, and then eventually they understood how to operate their data space. In future, this is not sustainable. This is because there is a lot of support on this from our organization, from the public. In future, we need to make sure we have something in place that is very, very generic and is a de facto standard created by us, that can be used by anyone, and that makes it interoperable by design, and not by building up infrastructure and infrastructure and infrastructure for every single data space. Data space as a service is, let's say, the next consequence of what we're trying to do in federated systems. And I'm happy to say that Catena-X, one of our largest lighthouse projects, went live last week using the clearinghouse. And next week, AG Data Hub will do the same using Orange as a clearinghouse. So market adoption is happening.
Perfect. Many thanks, Roland. But I think you're hopefully smelling a little bit which component and which power we can develop together, what we have regarding component standards, go to market. But what's next, Anna? How we can, in the next step, what is the innovation part?
Of course, I mean, we set up this infrastructure and all these pillars, and now what we need is to create value. So you mentioned that, Thomas, about creating business value, but also there are other ways of value. With data spaces, we can create value for common good. We can create really, we can do cost reduction. We know there are a lot of examples, and joint innovation. And I want to tackle on the innovation part, and that's something that we discuss a lot in the Data Spaces Business Alliance. We set up the data spaces to really create value and really to drive innovation. So now the question is, how do we do that? Because innovation doesn't come up from the sky. No? We really need to make it happen. So something that we have been working with during these 2 years is really pulling together our hubs. And that's something we are very proud of, and there are many people here in the audience representing those hubs. Like, for instance, we have a lot of representation from the Spanish Gaia-X hub. We have a lot of representation from the iSpaces as well, that is the BDVA hubs. I know there are representation here from the FIWARE iHubs as well, and also from the IDSA hubs and competence centers. So time back, we really sit down and said, okay, we all have these hubs that are the people really working in the territory with the SMEs, with the small and medium-sized enterprises, really the ones changing the mindset in the field, really making sure that our data-driven mindset is really created, and also helping all these companies to be prepared to really connect to the data spaces. So we also realized our hubs were very different, so some were more community building, some were more project ideation, there were more test beds, some there were really very strong infrastructure driven with very technical, and we thought, oh my God, we have so much potential here. Why don't we pull together this network? And that was one of the first ideas when we joined forces. We need to bring this network of hubs together. We've been working now in giving visibility to this network, and actually it's over 100 hubs. And some of them, like the Gaia-X hub in Spain, and many of the Gaia-X hubs are national hubs. They really bring together the best of the data economy in a country. But there are also hubs, I think, over 35 countries, because thanks to some of the organizations here, we are all over the world. And this is very important, connected also with the topic of standards and internationalization. And of course, we want to continue working with the hubs. And an important part, and just to mention also, that's the part of really bringing all the companies into data spaces. But now again, how do we generate innovation? How do we create disruption? How do we make sure that when a startup joins a data space, finds the data that they need and they find it now? And they really have access to this data. And how, when someone or a group of organizations have good ideas, can really join and testbed sandbox and really experiment with their ideas and really see how valid they are and boom, deploy into data space. So this is what the hubs are really helping with. And we really want to take the hubs of the 4 organizations, because what they all have in common is they really want to support, they really want to make data spaces happen. So that for us to keep working with this network and integrating this experimentation part in the data spaces is really critical.
Perfect. Many thanks. Now we have spoken a lot about data spaces, data economy, business, improving existing one, or looking for new business opportunities with the application in supply chains or sorry, again, manufacturing example, CO2 footprint, what could be possible now. Maybe to make one final round, and regarding, because to get value out of data, and we have spoken a lot of data, you need some kind of AI, artificial intelligence, and other methods. You maybe need the data to get from the field to report something, or to influence something, or to train models. And now I make a very short round, but let's say one comment up front. Roland, I will start with you. Don't dig into details of artificial intelligence, because we have Petri here. I heard shortly announced as an important advisory role, when I got it correctly. So you will lose the discussion about AI. Use your perspective on what is needed to make the next steps for artificial intelligence from our perspective.
Well, I would even narrow it down to Gaia's role. AI will need a lot of data, and we need to be able to trust in the data we use for the models. And trust is in the DNA of what we're doing at Gaia, so the trust framework and all these things will help you make sure all the data you collect from sensors, from applications, from data spaces is properly signed and is genuine. The second thing is AI needs a hell of compute power, and that is why we also need to make sure that the infrastructure part is under a trust framework, and that's also a big focus of Gaia, to make sure the infrastructure is also a trustworthy and interoperable infrastructure. And we are, for example, starting to use the framework and the clearinghouses for European partners to utilize hyperscaler infrastructure and innovation to drive AI applications.
Perfect, many thanks. Now I hand over to Ulrich.
I'll take your microphone. Let me put it in a bit different perspective. We started roughly 10 years ago to create digital platforms. And with the discussion of data spaces, with the approach of data spaces, we are bringing this to another level. But we are still, with data spaces, just collecting data and making data available for processes, for users. Much easier than with digital platforms where everything is, let's say, hard-coded. Now we make it also possible for unknown providers and users of data to get very easy access to these data spaces, but still we are just collecting data, and the real value of this data is generated by solutions like artificial intelligence. So the big value, and we are here at the European Big Data Value Forum, the real value out of data is coming from artificial intelligence. And and here it is important that, as we talked before about standard interfaces, standard data models, that also these AI solutions have easy access to these data spaces, to get access to the data and create value, to reduce the carbon footprint in a manufacturing supply chain, to improve the traffic situation within a city, and so on. And this is the combination and the interplay we need, and we will further improve.
And maybe, Lars, as you got not an inverted question like last time when you are sitting on a panel. You must know I have challenged him last time. Now, up to you a little bit. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, so just seconding what the colleagues have said. So AI only works with the biggest amount of data endpoints accessible. And that is what we need to do. At the end, our ambition should be, with data spaces, we can make every data endpoint accessible, so that we can make of all data that is there, so that we can train AI models and fuel AI services as good as possible. That means we need a standard way to, well, ingress data. And the ingress of data in the ecosystems, this is for me the biggest challenge. Well, what does that mean? So we need to ship interoperability and trust by default. So Roland said by design, yes, we are in the phase of by design, but also we need to ship it by default via software and services. It needs to build in cloud service offerings into products that we have all over the world. So that is just there, like commodity. Complete, so trustworthy with usage control, so that you can self-determinedly control what happens with your data. And therefore we need global standards. And referring to what I said before, we are, as DSBA, on our track to really create global standards. 4 weeks ago, we've been in Washington with ISO, and we have successfully approved and started a new work item where we define data spaces on a global level with the data space protocol in its center and the DSBA concepts. And with that, everyone in the world, in all countries, in all the markets, will know how to bring in interoperability and trust. And this will push AI. And this is our core ambition, because data is, well, rolling on a global scale, and therefore we need to go for global standardization. We also take actions on European level with Sensenelec to also respect the European legislation, and we need to combine it on a global scale. And then we can let data flow and bring AI to action. This is our ambition now.
Perfect. Many thanks, Lars. And maybe Anna, last question or last put you on stage. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so actually totally agree with my colleagues, and linked to the topic that Lars brought up of the trustworthiness. I have to say what is needed: data quality, data quality, data quality, right? And we all know that the paradigm of data quality has changed with the AI Act. And now we need to make sure that the data spaces offer this data quality, and that that's already guaranteed by design. And we really need to work a lot to make that happen. That's one of the challenges that we have now, actually working together with the people that are more experts in AI. In BDVA, we have 2 task forces working in this topic at the moment, ETAMI, and also our task force in data spaces are prioritizing this topic because it's essential. And just 2 very minor thoughts, I really think the data and AI is a marriage for life. And I mean, AI is going to help data spaces so much, because we all know how expensive and kind of boring data curation is to prepare data. We know how expensive it is for companies. AI will help us a lot. It will help us with semantic interoperability. Now it's a topic that is everywhere, large language models for semantic interoperability. And then, as has been said by my colleagues, we really need to design data spaces, to really design the data models, to make sure that we generate value out of the data with AI. So integrate with all the AI ecosystems, AI on demand, with the devs, with the networks of excellence, and to make sure that we build together between AI and data a common digital ecosystem.
Okay, many, many thanks. And, take with you, we're working in an ecosystem, not ecosystem together. We're putting our heads, our brains, our people somehow on a joint journey with others. I look to Petri. Take this with you, and we are just working on want to create impact. Many thanks.
Thank you. Thank you to my colleagues, and before leaving the stage to Thomas, as we said, we continue these conversations, and actually we will continue these conversations in 2 weeks in the Gaia-X summit that will take place actually 9th and 10th of November here in Spain, in Alicante. So please don't miss that.